Hello everyone, welcome back to Abigail Tells Tales. Before we begin today's story, I would love to make a quick announcement. The series we've been running on this channel is officially on hold for now. For the time being, we'll be returning to our regular storytelling, that is the standalone stories. Thank you to everyone who has been following and supporting the channel. Now settle down because today's story happened in a village where people still talk about it whenever masquerade season comes around. Before people started calling Chama the spirit fighter, before masquerades began receiving warnings about her, before children followed her around as if she was some kind of village superhero, Chama was simply a university student trying to help her widowed mother survive. At least, that was how the trouble started. Chama was the first child of Mama Ngozi, a hard-working woman from Umudike village. Years earlier, her husband had died after a brief illness that swallowed every savings the family had. By the time the man was buried, the family had lost not only a father, but also the little financial stability that they managed to build over the years. Life became difficult immediately. There were 4 children to feed, school fees to pay, rent to worry about, and bills that seemed to reproduce themselves every month. If there was one thing Mama Ngozi understood, however, it was hard work. The woman sold food at a busy roadside canteen near the village junction. Every morning, before the first cock crowed, she was already awake. By the time most villagers were still stretching on their beds, Mama Ngozi had finished cooking pots of rice, beans, yam, and pepper soup. Some days were good, some days were terrible. But however, she kept pushing. Chama grew up watching all of it. She stood with her mother, sweat over firewood. She watched her mother return home exhausted. She watched her mother smile through problems that would have made her cry. Perhaps that was why she became fiercely protective of her. By the time she gained admission into the University of Nigeria in Enugu, everybody in Umuedike was proud of her. She was intelligent, hardworking, respectful, and beautiful in the simple way village girls often were before city life began announcing or adding unnecessary complications. Whenever school closed for holidays, Chama returned home immediately, not because she missed village life, not because she enjoyed fetching water, and certainly not because she missed the mosquitoes. She came back because she wanted to help her mother. The moment she arrived, she practically became assistant manager of the canteen, and that was where the villagers' problem began. You see, Mama Ngozi had one weakness, her heart. The woman was too kind and too good. A customer would eat and promise to pay back tomorrow. She would agree. Tomorrow will become next week will become next month will become next year. Some of the debts in that canteen were old enough to start primary school. But whenever Choma returned from university, things changed quickly. Unlike her mother, Choma believed that if somebody's mouth was strong enough to chew meat, then that same mouth was strong enough to say, "Here is your money." The honest customers loved her, the debtors feared her. One afternoon, a man named Chike walked into the canteen and confidently ordered fish, rice, meat, and a bottle of malt. Halfway through the meal, he looked up and saw Choma sitting behind the counter. The spoon nearly disappeared down the wrong pipe. "Choma," he shouted, "you're back." "Since yesterday, uncle." The old man laughed nervously. Very good, he said. Choma smiled. "How is the money you owed my mother?" The entire canteen became quiet. A woman eating pounded yam stopped chewing. Even the flies seemed interested. Chike scratched his head. "I was planning to bring it." "Wonderful," Choma replied. "Bring it now, since I'm here." The man paid before finishing his food. By evening, the story had traveled through the village. The following day, another debtor named Okeke saw Choma from afar. The moment their eyes met, he changed direction immediately and he ran into a nearby motorcycle rider who drove into a ditch trying to avoid him. People laughed for 2 days. By sunset, Okeke had returned with every kobo he owed. That was the effect Choma had on debtors. Whenever she came back from university, they disappeared. Whenever she returned back to school, they came back. And along all those debtors, none was more famous than Obinna. Obinna was a professional storyteller, at least. That was what people called him behind his back. The man owed people money all round Umudike, yet he walked around with the confidence of somebody whose face appeared on naira notes. Whenever anyone demanded payments, Obinna always had an explanation. "My brother is in Italy." That was his favorite line. Nobody knew which brother, nobody knew where in Italy. Nobody knew exactly where his brother was. But according to Obinna, this mysterious brother was always sending money. The money simply never arrived. "My brother said next week. My brother is processing something. My brother is sending euros. My brother said I should calm down." At some point, villagers started suspecting that the brother in Italy had probably forgotten Obinna. Then one evening, Obinna made a mistake, a very expensive one. He entered Mama Ngozi's canteen without knowing that Chama had returned from school that same morning. And by the time he saw her sitting behind the counter smiling at him like somebody who had just spotted free entertainment, it was already too late. Obinna's smile disappeared immediately. The man had entered the canteen with the confidence of somebody who intended to eat first and remember payment sometime in the next century. He had already settled comfortably on the bench before his eyes landed on Chama. For a moment, the two of them simply stared at each other. Then Chama smiled, not the friendly smile customers usually received. This was the smile of a hunter who had accidentally found an animal that was supposed to be hiding. "Ah, Obinna," she said cheerfully, "welcome." The customers already knew trouble had arrived. Some of them stopped eating. Others deliberately slowed down so they wouldn't miss the entertainment. Obinna forced a laugh and sat back. "Chama, you're back." "Since this morning." "Very good." She nodded. "Good indeed." Obinna suddenly became interested in the table. A young boy serving food arrived. "What will you eat?" Before Obinna could answer, Chama spoke. "First tell him about our menu." The boy nodded. "Rice, beans, pounded yam, pepper soup." Chama smiled and the boy understood immediately. "And debt repayment." The entire canteen exploded with laughter. Even Mama Ngozi covered her face. Obinna looked as if somebody had poured pepper into his eyes. For the next 5 minutes, Chama politely reminded him about every naira he owed her mother. The more she spoke, the more people laughed. The more people laughed, the more Obinna wished the ground would swallow him immediately. Unfortunately, the ground refused. In the end, he paid every kobo, not because he wanted to, but because he had no choice. The worst part wasn't even the money. The worst part was that several of his friends witnessed everything. For the next few days, they refused to let him rest. Anytime they saw him, somebody would shout, "My brother is in Italy." The others would burst into laughter immediately. If Obinna entered a drinking spot, somebody would ask whether the brother had finally sent the money. If he entered a football viewing center, somebody would ask whether the brother was still processing something. The teasing became relentless. At first, Obinna laughed along, then he stopped laughing, then he became angry, then the anger began growing. And because foolish people often mistaken pride for wisdom, he started looking for a way to teach Chama a lesson. Unfortunately, festival season arrived at exactly the wrong time. Every year, Umudike held a masquerade celebration that attracted people from neighboring villages. Children loved it, traders loved it, young men loved it. Chama hated it, absolutely hated it. Since childhood, masquerades had always terrified her. She never understood how other people found them entertaining. Whenever one appeared on the road, Chama automatically looked for the nearest escape route. If she saw one from a distance, she crossed to the other side. If she heard drums approaching, she disappeared indoors. The entire village knew she was afraid of masquerade, including Obinna. The idea came to him while sitting with few friends under a mango tree. At first, it was supposed to be harmless, just scare her, chase her or make her run, embarrass her the same way she embarrassed him. Everybody laughed and everyone agreed. The plan sounded simple, but simple plans become dangerous when foolish people are involved. On the afternoon of the festival, the village was overflowing with different noise. Drums echoed from different directions. Children ran through the streets. Traders shouted over one another. Masquerades moved through crowds while people began following, singing and cheering. Chama had gone to buy a few things for her mother when she suddenly noticed one masquerade moving towards her. Her heart immediately began beating fast. She changed direction, the masquerade followed. She increased her pace, the masquerade increased his. People nearby started laughing. Chama frowned. Something felt strange. Masquerade usually chase people for fun. This one seemed unusually interested in her. Before she could think further, another masquerade joined the chase, then another. Now people were fully entertained. They thought it was part of the festival. They thought it was an ordinary play. Only Chama knew the fear building inside her chest. She started running. The masquerade ran after her. The crowd followed behind. The entire thing looked like a village marathon. Then suddenly, one of the masquerade caught up with her. The first cane landed across her back. Chama screamed. The second landed almost immediately. The third followed. The laughter around her began dying. Something was wrong. This was no longer play. The masquerade wasn't teasing her. He was beating her. And he was beating her with genuine anger. The crowd began shouting, "Enough! Leave her! What is wrong with you?" But the masquerade continued. Another cane landed, then another. People started moving closer. Even the other masquerade seemed confused. Then in the middle of the chaos, one voice rang from behind. "Obinna, stop!" Everything froze. The masquerade stopped. The crowd stopped. Even Chama herself stopped. For a second, nobody moved. Then the same voice shouted again, "Obinna, we agreed to scare her. We didn't agree to beat her up like this." Complete silence everywhere. The kind of silence that only appears when disaster has just introduced itself. Chama slowly turned around. The masquerade slowly turned around too. And for the first time since the chase began, fear left her body completely. Obinna. This was Obinna, the same Obinna who owed her mother. The same Obinna whose brother had supposedly been sending money from Italy since the intervention of electricity. This was the mighty spirit chasing her. Chama stared at him. Then she started laughing. At first, people thought the beating had affected her head, but the laughter kept growing. Obinna suddenly became uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because something had changed. A few seconds ago, he had been the hunter. Now he felt like a prey. Chama bent down slowly, picked up a sandal that had fallen during the chase. Then she looked at him. Then she looked towards the bush nearby. Then she started walking, not away, towards the bush. Few people watched in confusion. A few seconds later, she emerged dragging the longest stick anybody had seen that day. The crowd erupted. Children started screaming. Women began shouting. One old man nearly fell off the bench he was sitting on. Obinna took one look at the stick and immediately started backing away. "Choma!" She continued walking. "Choma, calm down." The crowd exploded with laughter. For years, he had been telling people to calm down whenever they demanded money. Now life had finally turned the favor. Obinna ran, and he ran. Choma ran after him. The masquerade ran. The girl ran after the masquerade. The villagers ran after both of them. Nobody in Umudike had ever witnessed such nonsense. By sunset, the story had already spread to the neighboring villages. By the morning, everybody knew a university girl had chased a masquerade through half the village. And from that day forward, something strange happened. Choma stopped fearing masquerade. The fear simply disappeared. Once she discovered that the terrifying spirit chasing her was actually Obinna, a man who couldn't even pay for food on time, something changed inside her. Whenever masquerades appeared, she no longer ran. In fact, sometimes they were the ones keeping their distance. And that was how Choma earned a new name in Umwedike. Not Choma the student, not Choma the canteen manager, but Choma the spirit fighter. For months, people refused to let Obinna forget what happened. Whenever he walked into a drinking spot, people shouted, "Make way, the spirit is coming." The entire place would burst into laughter. Children were even worse. The moment they saw him on the road, they would start running behind him, waving sticks and shouting, "Run, masquerade, run!" Poor Obinna nearly stopped attending village meetings altogether. As for Choma, the fear she had carried disappeared completely. The next masquerade season shocked the entire village. A masquerade appeared on the road. Everybody scattered. Choma did not move. The masquerade moved closer. Choma folded her arms. The masquerade stopped. People watching from a distance held their breath. The masquerade looked at Choma. Choma looked at the masquerade. Then the masquerade quietly moved. From that day, her reputation only grew. Whenever children were afraid of masquerade, their parents would say, "Go and call Choma." Whenever masquerade entered a compound, someone would joke, "Be careful before Choma sees you." Eventually, the nickname became permanent. People stopped calling her spirit fighter. a new title appeared, The Big Masquerade, and strangely enough, Chama liked it. After all, in a village full of people who spent years running from masquerade, she was the only one who had ever chased one. And she won. Hello guys, so if you've been enjoying Abigail Tells Tales stories, we have some amazing news. We officially created a brand new channel called Jenny Has a Story, where we'll be uploading more amazing stories for you. The link to the new channel will be pinned in the comment section. Please click the link, subscribe to the channel, and help us grow on our new community. Your support means a lot to us and encourages us to keep bringing you more entertaining stories. Don't forget to subscribe to Jenny Has a Story and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thank you so much for your love and support.